I'd like to welcome everybody to another Stop Doing Nothing podcast from stopdoingnothing.com. I apologize for not getting one out for a while, but like I pointed out before, I do these kind of randomly and when there's a good topic to talk about, and I'm very happy about the topic that we're going to be talking about today. Real quick intro, my name is Patrick Allman, and I run the website at stopdoingnothing.com, where we talk about motivation and leadership and just different ways for you to live above the noise in life and realize the things that are going on around you so you have more control of them and you are not at the mercy of the news and the things going on around you, that you just take more control about and you do that to live a better and more fulfilling life. This podcast has been going on for about a year now, and there's other podcast episodes out there. I would encourage you to visit stopdoingnothing.com and go watch the other podcast and the other YouTube videos. I'm very excited today because we actually have a guest on a very important topic, and it's a topic that's been an interest of mine when it comes to things that I talk about and how to control and influence the world around you, because as you are aware of your environment and you're aware of the people around you, you get a better idea of what people are thinking, and the more you see what people are thinking around the world around you, the more that you can kind of adjust your behavior a little bit. And that's primarily what we're going to be talking about today. There's a little bit of a challenge as you grow your sphere of influence, and whether it's your personal life or your business life, there are going to be times where you're going to want to get people to do basically what you want. You're not going to quite have the control of the Jedi hand wave, but whether it's a short-term yes to just like a simple question, or it's a long-term business project and you want to encourage people along the way to think the way you want them to think, these are going to be things that you're going to want to be better at. And this entire sphere of influence, this entire way of reacting to people, is a specialty area called influence. And it's a very important skill that I want you to learn, and that's why I'm so excited about this podcast today. There are a lot of books on the topics, but it's hard to find a person who specializes in just this niche. And I'm very lucky to know a lady who does this today, and she's our podcast guest today, and she is brilliant, and I'm so excited. And I'm also excited because this is the very first guest I've had on the Stop Doing Nothing podcast. And her name is Sharí Alexander, and Sharí is an award-winning speaker and coach who is known for bringing the dark arts of influence into the light, helping leaders be persuasive in a positive and ethical way. And ethics is extremely important. Don't use this stuff for bad. Use this stuff for good. She is certified in body language, micro-expressions, and neuro-linguistic programming, which is also known as NLP. She's also a contributor to Entrepreneur Magazine. I would encourage you to go read her articles in there, and she's currently working on an upcoming book called Undercover Influence, which I am very excited to see come out. She's also hosting an upcoming 3-day live streaming event at the end of October, but we're going to talk more about that. We're going to hear more about that, Sharí, towards the middle and towards the end of the podcast. So, Sharí, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Good. Well, thank you very much for coming on today. I really appreciate your time.
I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk about my favorite topic in the world.
Good deal. Now, just out of curiosity, I want people to know we're not necessarily in the same location. What are you doing today? I know you travel every now and then. Where are you hanging out today?
I am fortunate to be in my home in lovely Los Angeles. It's October, but it's a nice sunny day, just as it is every day in Los Angeles.
Nice. I know you're originally from Oklahoma. That's where I am right now, and the house is shaking. It's getting a little bit windy outside, and it's going to be Oklahoma weather tonight. I can just tell you.
See, you said you said the house is shaking, and instantly I thought earthquake.
Oh yeah, that would be a Southern California thing. No, it's the winds thing, and we might have some severe weather, which is just an Oklahoma average tonight. So hopefully we'll get all this done before Dorothy and Kansas and the whole tornado thing strikes up. But again, I'm just so excited to have you on today and talk about this particular topic, because it's hard to find an expert on this particular topic. Like I mentioned earlier, there are plenty of books on it, but to actually find a person to talk about it is interesting. And I'm just kind of curious, before we get too deep into it, can you give us a little bit about your background and history and where you come from in the world?
Absolutely. So I originally am from Oklahoma. That's how you and I met a number of years ago through the National Speakers Association. And I jumped into the world of being a public speaker or professional speaker pretty early on. I think I started my first business when I was 23. So I have almost a decade's worth of experience in this world of entrepreneurialism and sharing of expertise. My original background was I was an actress, and I studied acting, and that's what I did throughout college. That's what my major was in. Went off to London, studied under directors at the Globe Theater, went to New York, where I realized I really don't like this acting thing anymore. And so went back to Oklahoma, did some PR for a national nonprofit, and turns out I was really good at it. I landed their largest deal that they had seen in over 5 years within the first 6 weeks of me being on the job.
Wow.
And that kind of earned me a name within my company, and my boss and my boss's boss would come to me asking for presentation tips and help and on upcoming meetings. And it was just interesting to me because I guess something that I took for granted is something that other people needed. And
gotcha. Okay.
And actually one of my marketing professors in college, I have a marketing minor, said, you should really get into coaching and helping people with this. And when I was an actress, I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm an actress. And that's nice. But then after I got into the corporate world, I guess you could say, I saw the definite need in people needing to build their skill set of communication, of being wise with their words and building rapport with people and getting results in conversations, because they all went to college and learned about spreadsheets and numbers and planning and project management, and all of that's wonderful, but your main resource is human resource of connecting with people, getting people on board, motivating them. There are many X factors when it comes to human interaction, but that's why I love it so much.
Got it. Okay. Well, wow, that was quite a background there. I didn't realize all of that. The actress one is the one I find most interesting because you're really good when it comes to presenting, and you're definitely your acting and your presentation skills background definitely shows there. So you did all that. You moved out to California. You started dabbling in these dark arts of influence, and that's one of the things you do is you bring these dark arts of influence into the light. And I'm going to admit it sounds devious, it sounds mischievous, but can you kind of explain to me what that means about bringing the dark arts into the light?
Absolutely. So after I had spent a number of years helping people in their presentation skills and getting ready for important meetings, I really got more and more intrigued by this idea of conversational influence. So when you create a presentation, there's a lot of factors that are still within your control. Like, your opening remarks, your closing remarks, what your slides are going to say, who's going to be in the room, the outcome you want. There's quite a bit of control in that situation. However, taking it one level further, I was really intrigued by people who can be influential in a conversation where you can't necessarily plan everything out, and there's not necessarily a timetable, and you don't know the emotions that somebody's going to be walking in with, all of these different things. And yet there are individuals who are really skilled at meeting somebody, building rapport, and getting that person to do something. So I personally wanted to meet those people and learn from them. And so over the past year now, and I continue to do so as I do the research for my book, I have personally interviewed CIA field operatives, hostage negotiators, con artists, pickup artists even, trial attorneys with amazing win records, and a whole host of other people who even like undercover cops and military intelligence and DEA agents, anybody who I could think of who is really skilled at making their words matter when it really matters. I mean, we're talking life and death situations. And I wanted to learn about this so-called dark arts of these clandestine worlds and teach it to business professionals. Because again, nobody taught CEOs and leaders and human resource professionals or sales associates how to do these things. And that's the ultimate mission of my company, Observe, Connect, Influence, is to bring those dark arts into the light for the people who are doing good in the world.
Gotcha. So it sounds like you've talked to some pretty interesting people. Now, here's one thing that popped into mind real quick. When you were interviewing those pickup artists, were they any good at what they did? I mean, you didn't fall subject or you didn't fall victim to anything, did you? You were able to separate yourself and realize this is work related. Don't even try that on me.
Well, there's that one time in Vegas where I woke up and there was a tiger in the bathroom, but everybody's had that happen.
Oh my gosh. And the piano and Mike Tyson and all that stuff. Gotcha.
No, the pickup, to answer your initial question, are the pickup artists good at what they do? The ones that I talk to, yes. And it's a fascinating world because I think of all the people I interviewed, the most dark of the dark arts that I interviewed were the pickup artists and the con artists, because their intentions for their marks aren't necessarily the most moral of intentions in certain ways. But the main takeaway that I got from the pickup artists is, shockingly, is they actually use a lot of the techniques that I learned from the CIA agents. I mean, the parallels were kind of scary. But where pickup artists have that kind of leg up, and keep in mind, so for people who may not be familiar with the world of being a pickup artist, it originally was this underground kind of movement that then kind of got this groundswell from a book that was written by Neil Strauss. It's a phenomenal book, male, female, I don't care who you are, I recommend that you read it. He's an awesome writer. And basically it was these group of kind of dorky, dweeby guys who cracked the code on how to pick up girls and bring them home. And so these people that you wouldn't expect to be big time players actually turned out to be. So where the pickup artists kind of get a leg up in their realm is that they know their mark. They know their target. I mean, a girl that you are trying to pick up in a club in Los Angeles at 2 a.m. is a very particular type of girl, and versus a girl that you may want to chat up in a bookshop. So, so the techniques still do work. And the pickup artist movement has actually grown into a bit more of a self-help type of thing for guys. It's not as schemy and skeezy as it used to be. I mean, those guys still exist, but it's evolved over time to be a little bit more like how to help guys talk to girls, because it's difficult for some people.
No, it is, and it's scary. I mean, they talk about public speaking being scary. Well, the concept of trying to talk to somebody, male or female, who you want to get to know better can be just as bad. And
totally.
Yeah, and so that's interesting that there's actual training for that to teach you how to talk to the opposite sex. Yes. And so you've talked to pickup artists, you've talked to CIA agents, and I'm sure you've talked to a wide variety of people, but when you flip that around and you learn the details and the nuances of influence and influential training, I'm sure this can be used in just business in different ways and personal lives. When people come to you and they see you online and they seek you out for coaching and consulting and training and body language and all those things that you do so well, what kind of people come to you for training, and what kind of things are they looking for when they just say, teach me how to be influential? What kind of people would need that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So my base is more based off of a type of personality profile rather than job title, because I have a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of different job titles that seek my help. I have sales associates, I have IT managers, I have executives of large companies, I have solopreneurs. So the common through line that I've seen from everybody is that these are individuals who want more out of their life, meaning that they want to grow their business, or they want to climb the corporate ladder, or they want a promotion or a raise, or they want, maybe they are already at the top of their company and they're wanting to be even a better leader. I often say that a lot of the people I work with are kind of like the Michael Jordans and Tiger Woods. Even though they are at the top of their game, they still want to be even better. And they're looking for just one shift, one mindset, one technique, and need help in navigating high pressure situations. So I've had people approach me and seek out coaching. I have a lot of people asking me help for getting promotions. So far, I have 100% success rate on all of the clients that have hired me that wanted a promotion. They got a promotion within 6 months, and then so it's that profile of people who are just wanting to learn how to interact with their fellow human beings in a better, more effective, more harmonious, more results-driven way.
Gotcha. And so that could be anybody.
I mean, more or less, yes. But the flip side of that is that there are people who stay in their box and think my way or the highway, and they will cut people out of their lives faster than looking at how to collaborate and work with somebody. And it takes a much broader and deeper skill set to learn to work with somebody than just cut them out.
Gotcha. Okay. So when you now you told me earlier, or we were talking earlier about the pickup artists versus the CIA agents and what they have in common. What other kind of things, as you were doing all this research for this book, what other kinds of things from different fields, or even in a particular field, that when you discovered these things and you were picking their brains and you're going through all this Q&A and learning about these dark arts, was there anything in particular or any few things that kind of surprised you as you were interviewing and studying all these people?
Absolutely. So when I initially started the research for the book, my hypothesis was I'm going to learn a technique or two from the CIA guy. I'm going to learn a technique or two from the con artist. I'm going to, just kind of find certain things that I could cherry pick from each of them. What surprised me was that they all use the same techniques. They all go through the same process. They all have the same gambits that they run. Like there's not much difference from one person to the next. The only difference is the things that they may call it. Like, for instance, my agency guys would call one technique one thing, and then my military guys would call it something else. So the labels may change, but the technique is the same. And the other thing that surprised me, with the exception of the pickup artists, I guess every time I interviewed somebody, I was kind of expecting them to have that aura of being like, deep throat kind of. I just kind of expected a shadow over them at all times.
Right.
Just kind of secretive and closed off and have that sort of I'm a badass and I know it kind of a vibe to them. And it was the exact opposite. I even said to one of the CIA guys I talked with, I was like, you look like you should be selling me insurance. Like, you look that normal, like a normal all-American kind of dude. And they all were very open and they all smiled, which led to one of the biggest conclusions of being influential is to be a jerk and be influential leaves you being very limited in what you're able to accomplish. But being pleasant and charismatic and learning how to connect with people authentically, that is one of the main foundational steps to being influential. And honestly, for whatever reason, I did not expect them to be so nice, which is fascinating to me because I'm like, well, then how did they draw me in and what happened there and breaking that whole process down. And then the other big takeaway is that conversational influence is not a normal conversation, meaning you can have normal conversations all the time. I usually get asked like, oh my gosh, Sharí, it must be difficult to date you because you know all these influential things. And there's a difference between just talking with somebody and then talking with somebody with an intention behind it. So it's kind of a mechanism that you can turn on and off when you know these things. And so conversational influence begins with starting with the end in mind. You have to have a very clear goal, just as you do in business. You have to have a very clear goal of what you need that person to do for you. What specific actions will they take? What is your timeline for that? That's always the number one question a CIA agent will ask is, what's my timeline? Because that timeline actually dictates a lot of the tactics that you can use. And so, for example, I have a membership program called Influence HQ where twice a month I talk with my students about, just awesome influential things. And our first call was about setting influential goals. What does an influential goal look like? Because once you have that, then you can reverse engineer all of the different tactics and techniques at your disposal to make that happen.
Got it. Interesting. So in the beginning there, it actually sounded like these people could have used these skills for what I guess I would consider the dark side versus the light side, but they were just really good at it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So there. So that was the part that surprised you about people. Now, a big chunk of my audience is entrepreneurs and speakers, and I know that you're also extremely well connected in the speaker community. And if you were at like an NSA conference or another conference where you're talking to speakers and you wanted to give them some tips, and I actually have a particular question about this later, but in general, when you're speaking to entrepreneurs and speakers, what kind of quick advice do you give them, or what kind of things do you tell them to help them kind of have that mindset that you're talking about, where you start a conversation with an end in mind, or to just help them in general be more influential?
Right. So, oh my goodness, I could answer this in 10,000 different ways. So I'll try to whittle it down.
Gotcha.
One of the first ones is, I'll just reiterate the start with the end in mind, because if your goal isn't clear, okay, let's start with speakers. Not sometimes, the majority of the time, I would say speakers look at the gig as the end game. Like, I got the gig and I'm speaking. Great. Now I get to high five myself and I get to go get some ice cream. Like, that is how they view their speech. And to which I say, you need to be more strategic with your speech. There are multiple end goals that you can have from your gig. So you're up on stage. Do you want your audience's email addresses? Do you want to get the meeting planner to book you again for something else? Do you want to schmooze up the CEO and get him to hire you for consulting? There are spin-off opportunities from every single gig. And you need to decide which one, ideally. I mean, and then usually where most speakers go wrong is they go, I want all of those. And
and it's just,
yeah, exactly. And it muddles the message. I mean, if there's anything I've learned, especially from con artists and the CIA agents, is patience. So going after one goal at a time. So, so once you decide what that goal is from this gig, then you backtrack. Okay, what can I put in my presentation to entice them to give me their email? What can I say during my presentation to exert my authority to, get the CEO interested in my consulting services? So viewing the gig as one step to an even bigger goal beyond the gig, I think is a huge mistake a solution to a mistake that I think a lot of speakers need.
Okay, I think I heard you slip something in there that not only do I need to think about the end in mind when I'm like talking to a meeting planner for like a gig, but you're actually like talking like as I'm making up my PowerPoint, or if I want to influence my audience to do a certain thing, I've got to think about, the influence and the end game of that, just like I have to think about when I'm even trying to close a sale in the first place. Did I hear that correctly?
Absolutely. Yeah, when you're trying to land the sale for an event, it's a very clear end goal that you have. Typically, a speaker will have in mind, like, okay, I'm going to offer them these 3 packages, but this is the one I really hope that they go for, so you're probably going to talk up that one option more than the others. And if there's a whole bunch of different influential strategies you can use to make that one more enticing. And so you're laser focused with that meeting planner. But then speakers want to go shotgun approach from the platform, and that isn't as influential.
Interesting. Okay, so I'll have to take that in mind. So now one of the things I do in addition to, and this is going to be a very selfish question, but I'm sure this will help our listeners also, is that a lot of times, in addition to trying to close a speaking engagement or speak on stage, a lot of times I may be sitting like in a room full of influencers. Like I'm going to go to a big company and they've already kind of sold on me, but they're not 100% sold on me. So they say, Patrick, come in and sit in this conference room with us and let's talk for a couple of hours and see how we can work together, because we're not quite sure we want to work with you. We want to get more comfortable with you. So when you're sitting in that room with these other influencers in this company, these people that are decision makers that are making the decision whether or not to sign the check or give you a big contract. If I'm sitting in that environment and if Sharí was on my shoulder giving me some tips, what would Sharí be whispering in my ear as I'm sitting there and we're kind of interacting back and forth?
Doing the Cyrano de Bergerac version of influence.
Exactly. Yes, you're out there in the bush and you've got like a little earpiece in there and you're like, Sharí, what do I do now?
I love it. So the first thing is identifying who your true decision maker is. I mean, is this really a decision by committee, or is there one person that if they push the big red button, then it's a go? So that's the first thing. And then that would dictate how you approach the rest of your meeting. If you're going to develop your influential intention for that one person, then you would figure out, okay, are they more interested in the emotional results, or are they more interested in the tactical, factual results that I will bring them? What is that person's pain point, and how do they describe that pain point? What are the phrases? What gets them riled up? What makes them really happy? So one of the best ways to be influential is being observant about what puts somebody in a positive state and then what puts somebody in a negative state, and then being skilled at triggering those states within that person to benefit your objective. If it's a group of people, then you need to make more of a generalized approach, meaning that you need to hit all of your influential bases. So you need to talk from the emotional standpoint. You need to talk from the tactical standpoint. You need to talk from the short term and the long term. And you just kind of have to hit the spectrum of options. So that way, if, one thing appeals to Joe, then another thing might appeal to Jane. So that's how you would take the approach. Another thing is mirroring. Mirroring is a phenomenal technique that so many people just either don't know about or underutilize. They're not bringing the mirroring technique to their conscious awareness. And basically what mirroring is it's taking on the silhouette of your mark. So you're not mimicking them, you're not matching them movement to movement, but kind of their silhouette, how they're sitting, if they're leaning forward, leaning back, leaning to one side, cross legs, not cross legs, those type of things. And you incorporate that into your own body language. Most people stop there. And I say you need to go one step further in the mirroring, which is match their vocal tone, match the paralinguistics of what they have. So that's tone, that's cadence, that's volume, that's the pace in which they speak, where the pauses are, and then also mirroring their language. So this is where some of the neurolinguistic programming comes in. Are they more visually inclined, auditory, or kinesthetically, and can you use those type of descriptive words and metaphors that will hook into their linguistic preferences, and then repeating back those key words and phrases that you've picked up on, that you get the positive influential signals. And I've written about those influential signals just recently on my blog, which is at Sharí-Alexander/blog, and I think it's like, are you on the influential path, I believe is the title of the blog, something along those lines.
Okay. So the mirroring is the big one that I picked up from there, and so I just took some notes there about some things I need to do differently when I'm in that sales presentation, because I do technical work in addition to speaking, and so tips like this, like I said, that was a little bit selfish, but tips like that are the things that I need, or that might help me, and I think some other people, close some other business. So there you were talking about body language a little bit. Is that now you also, I've heard you a little bit talk about something called NLP or neuro linguistic programming. Can you, in a nutshell, can you kind of explain what that is? Because that's a term I've only probably learned a lot about only in the past 12 to 24 months, but some people that are listening may not have ever heard that before, surprisingly.
Sure. So neurolinguistic programming came about in kind of the 70s or so. It was co-founded by Richard Bandler and Michael Grindler, or I think I've met Michael, but I haven't met his John Grindler.
Okay.
I've talked with Michael. And so the easiest way to look at neurolinguistic programming is, well, these guys, similar to what I'm doing with the dark arts, they interviewed very skilled therapists, very skilled psychologists who yielded these amazing results with their clients. Milton Erickson and I forget her first name, but last name was Wolf. All these amazing people, and we're just like, well, how is it that what you're doing through talking, like, how is that getting results? So over time, they developed this kind of method, this linguistic method that they observed with these people. And the easiest way that I view NLP is that it's kind of like the open source code of language. They made NLP available to the masses. They don't have any proprietary trademarks on anything. Like, they really wanted it to be shared because they saw that this is kind of a way to hack communication for success. And I mean, not just for success, it also helps people overcome their chronic fears about things. It helps people get over traumatizing events in their past. You can use it in a wide variety of ways, and bringing it back to influence, it is so many of the techniques were used with the military intelligence guys, and everybody else that I've talked about. Every single one of them used NLP.
Got it. Interesting. Yeah, that's a very good explanation. I've never heard it explained quite that well before. So I want to keep this pretty close to 30 minutes to make this manageable for people. So as we wrap up here, I took my major notes I took here today were that influence can be learned from a large variety of people, whether it's pickup artists or CIA agents. I love that one. When you were talking about being in a boardroom or being in a sales situation where you had to, it's kind of a high stakes, that you mentioned a lot, that you just need to be more aware of the people around you and what you're doing. And then you also mentioned mirroring is a huge deal. If I'm correct, does that sound about right?
Yeah, both verbally and non-verbally.
Verbally and non-verbally. So out of those 3 points and all the other things you mentioned today, if you were, what would you say if to an entrepreneur as kind of a wrap-up statement for today, that they need to, why they should pay attention to so much influence and, come to your site, and I'm going to push people to your site to go learn more about influence and your blog. Why, can you summarize in one statement, is it important for someone to learn about these dark arts of influence?
Sure. The one statement is that no man is an island. For any goal that you have in your business or personal life, you will not be able to accomplish those goals 100% by yourself. You will always need somebody to assist you. You will need somebody to believe in you. You will need somebody to see your vision and get, the passion around your vision, the way that you have it. You'll need people to be able to share your message the way it needs to be shared, and you need to be the master of your message. And that, again, that's personally and professionally, and how you interact with your fellow human beings will determine the rest of the path of your life.
Gotcha. I love that. You need to be the master of your message. I'm gonna make that a tweetable out of this blog post. People just click on that and tweet that and attribute to you need to be the master of your message. Okay, this has been extremely useful for me. I hope it's been extremely useful to our listeners. And now here's the part of the podcast where I want you to tell people how to track you down, where they can get on your email list, where they can read more about this, because I know that you blog regularly on this topic also.
Yeah, so my main page is observeconnectinfluence.com, and that's where you'll see everything in there you can click to my blogs and my videos and all that good stuff. And if you're interested, I always love people to join Influence HQ, and there's information in there about that. And observeconnectinfluence.com. Check out the blog. I pretty much blog once a week and share things that I think are awesome.
Okay, and I also want to remind people, and this is pretty exciting too, and I'm very disappointed that I'm not going to be on the West Coast to attend this, that if you are in the Southern California area, and actually it doesn't even really matter because they're going to be streaming online also. I would just love to attend live because I'm selfish. October 22nd, 23rd, and 24th at creativelive.com, Sharí is going to be speaking on the secrets of influence, how to get people to say yes. Now, is this happening like in LA or in the Northern California? Where are you actually filming this?
We're filming from San Francisco, and it's 3 full days of me training and streaming right to your computer, and it's 100% free. So no credit cards involved. You can watch the live event. You can pop in and pop out, tune in, and learn from me for 3 days straight. I'm training 8 hours each day. I'm giving all of my favorite content and secrets and strategies. And we also have a studio audience, so I'll be workshopping with them on some of their influential goals. So you'll see how that process works. And to me, I love Creative Live. I love what they're doing. I love how they're bringing so many awesome training programs to people. There's also a chat room where while you're watching, you can ask me questions through the chat room. And I have kind of like TV show hosts that tell me what's going on in the chat room. So if you have a burning question about something, type it in the chat. I will see it and I'll be able to answer it. We're about a month out, and we already have 1,500 people signed up, and would love to have more people join in the conversation to get the positive, influential movement spread around the world.
Gotcha. So again, for those of you that are taking notes on that, that's going to be October 20. Let's see, what do my notes say here? October 22nd,
23rd, and 24th.
And I'm going to the website right now to see where in San Francisco. Do you know if that's going to be at a particular hotel or something, instead of curiosity?
No, they have a studio. They have a studio in San Francisco. Yeah. And
gotcha. So
I'm just going to give the address to the Uber guy. I don't know exactly where in San Francisco it is. I'll just show up wherever he takes me.
Gotcha. I learned a long time ago I don't want to drive in San Francisco. You get a town car or you get a taxi.
Yeah.
Well, Sharí, thank you very much for spending your time with us today. I really do appreciate you, and I hope some people got some value out of this, because I think this is one of those small, subtle things that can make a big difference if you're in any kind of sales, like I said, high-stakes sales situation, high-stakes personal conversation. I really think you do a great job of explaining the dark arts of influence and why it matters to people.
Well, thank you, Patrick. It's always fun chatting with you.
I really enjoy your company. And for those of you that are still on board listening, I appreciate you spending your time today with Sharí Alexander and I. Don't forget to visit her website. And if you want some more information about Stop Doing Nothing or the other podcasts or videos we have, I'd encourage you to head on over to stopdoingnothing.com. We've got all of our podcast episodes up there. We've got plenty of videos up there. We've got a blossoming Facebook fan page. And I will look forward to talking to you guys during the next podcast. Thank you for tuning in. You have a great evening, and don't forget to practice your dark arts of influence.